This is my Kohala Longan fruit tree, also known as dragon eye. Towards the end of the video, I'll show you why it's called the dragon eye fruit. I purchased this tree last year in April of 2021, and this is the first time that I've ever been able to harvest fruit off of it. I'll take you through the flowering cycle onto the harvest. And I'll also show you what the fruit looks like and talk a little bit about the taste. Before I jump into that, I'd like to show you my Suriname cherry tree. This is the Lolita variety, which is a dark pumpkin-shaped cherry. This is the second time this tree has fruited this season, and as you can see, it is fully loaded. I bought this one about 3.5 years ago. I planted it in this section last season. It's always produced good-sized crops, even when it was growing in a container, but this is way more than it's ever done in previous years. Anyway, I just thought I would give you an update on it. Okay, back to the Longan. Here's a short video of what it looked like when I purchased it. And as you can see, it was a fairly young tree growing in a 15-gallon container standing about 45 inches tall. And this variety is fairly slow growing. It hasn't really put on much growth since planting. Back in May of 2021, a few weeks after purchasing, I decided to put this tree in the ground in an area that I had previously prepped. One thing that I would like to point out is something that I've noticed with several trees that I have purchased from various nurseries. That is that nurseries tend to pot the trees with a good portion of the trunk buried. I've read articles on this where it's best to plant most trees with the root ball slightly exposed. On this particular tree, as you can see here, this tree was potted with several inches of the trunk covered with dirt. I wound up removing about 5 inches or so of dirt before I reached the root ball. When I planted the tree, I made sure that the root ball was slightly exposed at ground level. Within a few months, it had put on a good amount of healthy new leaves. A few months later, it developed some panicles, each with several flower buds. If you've ever seen the flowering cycle of a mango tree, these panicles look a little bit similar to that, although they don't have quite as many flower buds as most of the mangoes develop, but they do look similar. Several weeks later, a good amount of the flower buds began to develop fruit. At this stage, the developing fruit was smaller than a pea, and just about all the panicles had at least some fruit that was starting to develop. There were quite a few scattered throughout the tree, but at this stage it's really difficult to, it's too early to tell how many of these are actually going to set, but there were quite a few that were developing. By late July, the developing fruit had a little more size. By this time, the fruit was about the size of just a little bit bigger than a pea. and nearly all the panicles had some fruit that was still holding on. And here it is again in mid-August. By this time, you could see that the fruit had, the ones that were left on the panicles had already set. They were quite a bit bigger than what you saw in the previous clip. And here they are in mid-September. By this time, you could clearly see that they put on quite a bit more growth. They still weren't ready for harvest, but they had put on quite a bit of growth and were getting close to reaching full size. By early November, I harvested my first fruit. I waited till the fruit changed in color from a green, dark green color to a brown, slightly orange color. The panicles developed in mid-April, and by mid-May the tree was in full bloom. So flower to harvest was slightly less than 6 months. I should note that in my area here in Southern California, we don't get nearly as much sun as some of the other places as you go further inland. So if you're further inland, I'm sure it'll take a lot less time for your tree to go from flower to harvest. But here for my area, here in zone 10A, fruit trees tend to take a little bit longer to develop fruit. So it was a long wait, but well worth it. Here's what the fruit looks like on the inside. It's a bit translucent and it peels same way you would peel an orange. The outer skin is much thinner, but it does come off easily. Here it is completely peeled, and it's a bit hard to tell on this pic, but if you look closely you can see the seed inside, which is a fairly good size and almost looks like a pupil, which is, I guess, why they call this the dragon eye. Here's a little bit better pic with it sliced in half so you can see what I'm talking about. Here it is after removing the seed, which as you can see is fairly good size, but there is a really good amount of flesh that is edible. And as far as the taste goes, it's a little sweet with a musky flavor to it, and it's very juicy. Overall, it has excellent flavor as far as I'm concerned. It's not too sweet, but it does have really good flavor to it. And as I said, it's extremely juicy. I would highly recommend, if you can grow it in your area, I would highly recommend growing it. It's a really good tasting fruit. As far as care for growing this tree, it's fairly easy to grow. I've had no pest issues with it. For fertilizing, I use nothing but organic fertilizers, such as kelp, seaweed, and I only give it a couple of applications per year, usually just before start of spring, and then the second one depends on when the fruit sets, which in my case was August. I'll give it a second application after the fruit has set, but a much lighter application than the first. And that's about it. Well, that'll be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Before I sign off, I wanted to give you a sneak peek at my loquat that is just started to develop some flowers for the very first time. If I can get this tree to set some fruit, I'll go ahead and I'll post a flower to harvest video on this one as well. This is the very first time that this tree has flowered, so hopefully I'll get some fruit off of it. I'll keep you posted on this one. So until next time, stay safe, grow your own, and thank you for watching.